All right. My what I found from the video I sent to you last night regarding the CBN broadcast about the so-called controversy of what was it called? Dancing with the Stars, and with my chat with Shock of God a couple of months ago, is that the Christians have a completely different perception of homosexuality in the media. And not only that, they think we have the same perception, but we have different opinions about it. Anytime anytime someone is homosexual or transgender, and they're in the media, they're in a show, they think it's being promoted. They think it's a lifestyle that is trying to be promoted, and they find that very threatening for some reason. And that's what Shock of God said. That I think he said, and I quote: "I think everyone here, atheists and Christians, can agree that homosexuality is promoted." And what do you guys think? Do you guys think it's promoted, or do you think that's a crock of shit?
Well, when this person was brought on, did they say this is Bob or whatever his name is? He was born without a willy, but now he's got one.
I never saw I didn't see the information about the show itself. How they advertise themselves, but that doesn't sound like something they would do.
Well, no, exactly. If I was sitting there eating my mashed potatoes and my sausages, and then they come on and said something like this, I wouldn't be very pleased about it. But that's because you're making me think of willies while I'm eating sausages. I don't want my children to hear stuff like that. Not because I shield my children from stuff like that. My children can ask me anything and I'll tell them. It's just that, if you want to watch famous people dancing, then watch people dancing. If you want to see willies, go on the internet. So don't mention it. But if these people are getting up in arms because somebody is merely on television who they know had a sexual reassignment operation, then that's their issue. Because as they're sitting there shouting, "Oh, this is terrible, it's terrible, we should all write in," and the kids will say, "Why?" And then what have they got to say to their kids? They've either got to tell them, "Oh, I can't tell you why," or they've got to tell them it used to be a woman and now it's a man.
Yeah, I completely agree. If they're not making a big deal about it, why stir up a ruckus?
Well, I just want to go back to the rationalizer, because he may be in a better position than most of us are in relation to this. I know that you have children. If they were watching Sesame Street and these two puppets of whatever potential orientation or none that they have actually went through a marriage process, is that something that would concern you, that your children were watching this?
Well, the thing is if my children were watching Sesame Street and two puppets got married and they were both men, I really don't think that that's going to turn them into homosexuals. I mean, the fact is, if they were homosexuals, I wouldn't give a damn anyway. But even if I gave a damn about them being homosexuals, I'm certain that watching Bert and Ernie getting married wouldn't turn them into homosexuals.
But do you think?
Just sit there and accept stuff.
Yeah, but do you think that using the word that JR used in his opening comment, that this is sort of like promoting homosexuality? I do struggle with this idea that the fact that you are, let's leave the Sesame Street aside, but the fact that you may be depicting or showing on television someone that happens to be transgender or happens to be homosexual, can you count that as promoting it?
No, the issue isn't that they're promoting homosexuality. The issue
it is. That is exactly what. No, it is. That's what 1 million mums says. They are promoting it.
The issue, that's what they're saying, but the issue isn't that they think they're promoting homosexuality. The real issue is that they are promoting acceptance of homosexuality. That is the real issue. That's what they're worried about. They're worried that people are going to say homosexuality is okay. That's what they're worried about. They know that watching them on telly isn't going to make their kids homosexuals. They're just worried that people will get the impression that homosexuality is okay. That's why I don't mind my children watching it, because I say, well, if two men do to each other with consent in the privacy of their own home, it's completely up to them. They know that. It doesn't bother me. They can promote acceptance of homosexuality, but there isn't a way to promote homosexuality. You're either are or you aren't. I've tried. I would like to be bisexual simply because it would give me more options, right? But trust me, right? No matter how much in my head I try to find a man attractive, it just doesn't happen.
I think it's a slippery slope. If you allow two male puppets to get married, what's next? Are you going to have marionettes and puppets getting married? Or are you going to have puppets getting married to mascots or small furry animals?
I'm I'm sorry, but speaking of finding men attractive, in this window we have DPR Jones' face in it twice, and it's really disturbing to look at, I have to say.
Am I not attractive to you?
You can say that.
I can't promote myself to you.
Not
think
twice
it's
in one
nonsense,
window.
It's a topic that we did touch upon a couple of shows ago, didn't we? I know, Almighty, that you were present in the show. Whether which came first, homophobia or biblical justification for it? And I think the consensus was that homophobia came first, but the Bible, wow, what a great justification for it.
Yeah, I think you have people who haven't set foot in a church for years who will say, well, the Bible says, and there's a justification for that. I think that a lot of straight people see it as a threat to their own sexuality. I was listening to this podcast about the history of Rome, and they had this one young man who became the emperor, and he would ride around in his chariot, and the Romans were somewhat tolerant of bisexuality, but you still had to be masculine, even if you preferred boys. You still had to be an alpha male if you were in a position of authority. And this guy, this new Roman emperor, he had this favorite charioteer, and it was also his lover. And he sometimes referred to himself as the wife of his charioteer. And he was from one of the eastern provinces, and sort of used some of the male makeup and things like that. So they just assassinated him.
Wasn't there a Roman emperor who dressed in drag and preferred to be referred to as the Empress of Rome?
That was the one. I forget his name, but yeah, that was probably the same one.
I mean, they all wore togas, which are kind of dresses. But I don't know what male makeup is as opposed to female makeup. Makeup is makeup, isn't it? I don't know.
The Romans didn't wear it, but in Persian society, it was just ornamentation like any other. So, the people living in the eastern provinces were often influenced by Persian culture.
Can I just say, for explanation, because I'm trying to record this as well as host the Skype call, I am trying to reduce what my computer has to do, so I do not have Blog TV open. So if you are sending me messages or seeking to make comments to attract my attention on Blog TV, unfortunately I'm not receiving them, so could I invite Rationalizer and Almighty to keep an eye on that for us, please. JR, was there anything else you wanted to add?
I just had something I forgot, but
it's all right. Take your time. I'm going to whilst you take that moment, I'm just going to bring in the next caller. So
it was on my point that these Christians seem to believe that we have the same perceptions we do. That we also think that homosexuality is promoted, but we are just okay with it. And yeah, so I'm not sure about what the rationalizer says. I'm not sure that they believe that they know they're being willingly dishonest, that it's their fear of homosexuality being accepted as that they're worried about. They're more worried about that, but I think that is an underlying issue. I do agree with him. Sure, that was very clear.
Yeah, well, stay with us. We've got the next caller in. It's always interesting to hear your contributions, JR, so we'll keep you in the call for the moment, but welcome to the show, Yuri. Can I just invite anyone who's not speaking, please, to mute their microphone because it's picking up a bit of background noise. Thanks, Joe. Hi, Yuri. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm following your advice and I'm listening to the audiobook version of the Bible. To all of the chat room, it's actually available for free. You don't even have to download it through piracy, You can just go and download it. So I've been listening to it at my work and I've gotten about to Numbers. Yeah, I just finished listening to Numbers. And man, just as Aaron Ross said, man, how can grown people still believe that, I used to believe maybe, all of these atheists are exaggerating all this stuff there, and maybe it's just out of context. It's not out of context. It's like so bizarre, and it's like if you seriously look at the type of people that lived back then, they were so insanely different from us. If they were to see some non-Jewish weird white guy that calls himself a Christian and doesn't even speak their language, I mean, what are they thinking? Like, it's but I'm reading it to simply have some credibility, so that if I ever get into a debate, so I can say, have you read the Bible, And next time the Apocrypha.
If I can just pause you there for a moment. I was faced with similar accusations leveled at me. Could I just ask you to mute your microphone? There's a bit of background noise being picked up from it. And so I took the gift from God, which was actually a Bible in a hotel room that I was in a few weeks ago, and I have been working through it, and it is, I agree with you, it is torturous, but what I think is interesting is that if you did a audio version of the Bible and posted it on the net, the same people, such as $1 million, $1millionmums.com, would probably be against it being on the internet, because, and I've not managed to get to Numbers yet, I'm still at the end of Genesis, but Genesis is full of the most deplorable things, and I'm not talking here just about global genocide that committed by God, obviously, but for example, you've got, and I've put little yellow tags in where I find interesting bits, and it's already full of yellow tags. You've got Lot and his daughters after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and they go and live in a cave. And his daughters sort of like talk to each other and say, "Hey, there's no men around here. How are we going to have children? I know. Let's get Dad drunk and shag him tonight." So they do that in 2 consecutive nights and have sex with him. I think they would probably object to that, saying, "Oh no, that's awful. That's sex on the internet. That's disgusting." You've got Jacob a little bit later on. I can't remember exactly. Was it 30? Yeah, Genesis 30 is a hotbed of sexual activity because Jacob has 2 wives, both of whom have maidservants, and he ends up shagging all 4 of them and having children with all 4 of them. Do you think that they would really like that? No, because they selectively cherry-pick bits from the Bible. And so, the point is, if these people actually read it, I think they would be genuinely shocked by what it actually says.
Does the audio Bible have sound effects in it?
Well, they don't have so much sound effects, but they do sort of act it out, and it makes it even more hilarious. For example, in Exodus, they sort of, like, for anybody who has played Fallout 3, like, the Egyptians sort of sound sort of like orcs, and we will go there, like, so it's really hilarious. And
that was a good representation. Could you do the representation of the bit where they have sex with their dad? How do they say, "Let's have sex with Daddy tonight"? Could you do that bit for us?
Oh,
well, even the Fallout and other Bethesda games censor out the actual sex. The Bible just spells it right out.
Yeah, but even DPR, you won't be able to get through Numbers and Leviticus without an audiobook version, because it simply goes on, and this guy, the son of that guy, the son of this guy, who later gave rise to that guy, and it goes on like that for like half an hour. And
it was a point, Yuri, that I think I was actually discussing with the Rationalizer only yesterday. I've certainly talked to a few people about it. What I find extraordinary is that, as I say, as far as I understand the story to go. The first 5 books of the Bible were dictated by God to Moses. And I just wonder what God was thinking about. I genuinely think that he needs to sort out his communication skills and his PR department, because I haven't even got to numbers, but the rationalizer did warn me. He said you'll just get so bored shitless with numbers. I think it was you, rationalizer. I'll come back to you in a second. But there are another bit. Sorry, old age is a terrible thing, and I do apologise. I can't read small print without my reading glasses on now. There was, I think, I marked it with a "what the fuck" comment, and I can't. No, it wasn't Genesis 13. It was a little bit later. I think, it's sort of like in the 30s, maybe 38, where there is just this account of Jacob wandering around, and he wanders somewhere, and he finds a well, and he says, "Oh, praise be to the Lord," and builds a shrine, and he slaughters an animal. And then he wanders somewhere else, and he finds another well, and he builds another shrine. And honestly, it goes on for pages and pages, and it's like, God, you've got an important message to get over here, and you think it's important to include details about Jacob wearing a funny coat and finding wells? I just don't get it. I could reduce what I've read so far to one side of A4. Look, I'm God. I did it this way. This is what I want you to do. Bang, bang, bang. Job done. But no, it's this turgid fucking crap. Sorry, end of round. Rationalizer.
J.R. Chadwick wants to say something.
Yeah, JR.
Yeah, I think I can answer your question in 2 parts of why that there are grown adults that believe in this stuff. The first part is they really don't. They say that I get people telling me they believe the Bible literally, but then if you ask them more detailed questions, you find that they don't. They add stuff. They say you're taking stuff out of context, or you're only focusing on certain parts. Like, I had a woman yesterday tell me that if all I'm focusing on is a story of Sodom and Gomorrah, then I really don't understand the Bible. And
Can I just deal with that point, because I had a similar conversation with someone a couple of days ago, and it went along these lines. They said to me that they believed in the Bible, which I think is a somewhat ambiguous statement, but I think what they were saying is that effectively they believe in the contents of it and the fact that it's sort of like God's word. But we went through this, and I said, which particular Bible do you happen to read? And they said the King James Version, and I then said, asked them, do you understand how the King James Version of the Bible came to be in existence? And they were unaware of that. So I explained that to them, and I said to them at that point, what is the most important message contained in the Bible? Knowing pretty much that they were likely to say the 10 Commandments. Lo and behold, they said the 10 Commandments. And I said, oh, right. What are they? And the person said, what? And I said, what are the 10 Commandments? He said, what, you want me to tell you all of them? And I said, yeah, this is the book that you believe in, of which the most important message are the 10 Commandments. So what are they? How many do you think she was able to name?
3 or 4 maximum.
To her credit, she got 5.
Which, as you both, it puts her in the top echelon. Now, Yuri, you said you had an audio Bible and the Egyptians were acted out and they sounded like orcs?
Yeah, you just, there are actually several recordings. Just Google Bible audiobook LibriVox, and it should be available. Oh, by the way...
I know LibriVox. LibriVox is a great site with a lot of stuff. But just one small correction. The orcs were from Oblivion, not from Fallout 3. Although, I do like the story from the Bible where God sends the guy in the dark glasses to hire Lot to blow up Sodom and Megaton with a nuclear bomb.
Wait, Fallout 3 does have orcs. Oh, and not to be off topic, but okay, another thing that I found in the Bible which was really awesome. Like, if you have a piece of clothing and it is infected with leprosy, you should leave it for 7 days. And if the leprosy is gone, it's okay, you can wear it. Like, that's an actual thing that you can read in the Bible. That was like awesome. Oh, and the DPR, another preview of what will come. He will keep saying, for I am Jehovah, your God. Now you should build me a tabernacle out of shitting wood, and you should build this wall out of shitting wood. Like, at first I was really surprised, like, what the hell, shitting wood? Actually it's with an M, shit M wood. It's like a type of wood, but it's still really hilarious if you're to listen to it in the audiobook version because it still sounds the same.
Well, I look forward to something entertaining in the Bible. As I say, most of it I'm afraid I find somewhat turgid.
Okay, my final point. It's about Sam Harris's absolute morality. He just redefines it as he just takes the lack of suffering, or like I know that last time it went on for 5 hours. I watched that show, and yeah, it requires beer. But basically, Sam Harris redefines absolute, morality as simply to reduce suffering, and he makes that switch, and that's where it all veers off.
Yeah, and this is one of the problems I have with him, because even it's again, this is my understanding of what he's saying, and I may be misunderstanding his point, but he seems to be saying that science is now in a position where it can sort of like monitor brain activity to sort of like actually objectively define what is going to reduce suffering. And the problem I have with that is that, and I used a somewhat cheaper example, but I think it's a perfectly valid one. If you shove a dildo up someone's arse, there may be quite a few people who consider that to be pain, and the pain parts of their brain will be triggering and the neurons firing away, and they'll probably be screaming. There are other people, it might be a minority, but there are another group of people for whom the pleasure parts of their brain would be triggering. So I simply don't understand how he's going to get this concept, or how he's defining this objectivity when it comes to not causing pain.
Especially when he asks the subject, "Oh, what do you think of that?" Like, "Oh, yeah, terrible. That was terrible. Hated every second."
DPR, that was under the old law.
Well, okay, I'll report back when I have read the entire Bible. For now, get on to the next caller because, you've got little time. Bye.
Okay, thank you very much.
The other gem that DPR came up with when we were talking the other day was, if it's the Sabbath and you're sitting on the toilet taking a really difficult shit, are you breaking the rules?
Yes, just to put that in a little bit more refined context. Obviously, I was referring to the account given in Leviticus of the old man collecting sticks on the Sabbath. And if you're not familiar with the story, he was caught by people. Someone spotted him collecting sticks, and so they took him off. Did they take him to Moses? I think they did. And Moses checked with God, and God said, "Take him without the city, surely he shall be stoned to death." And they took him without the city, and they stoned him to death. Now, I think the effort put into stoning someone to death is greater than actually picking up a few sticks. But the point that I raised, that Almighty was referring to, is if you're a little bit constipated and it's a Sabbath and you're sitting on the toilet and you've got a troublesome stool that you can't shift, so you're putting a bit of force to get it. Is that working on the Sabbath? I don't know. But hopefully we've got the next caller who might raise the level of the show a little bit above that toilet humour.
Well, it doesn't say anything about it. I don't think. I mean, I've not read the Talmud or anything like that, but it seems to me that the verdict was on the Sabbath there are sticks of a certain size that you can't.
Jesus.
You can't pick up sticks that are too large, but you can drop a log of any size and you're okay.
Welcome to the show, Rob. Before you begin, can I just make a mention, and I will try and do this again before the end of the show. In 2 weeks' time, we won't be doing the normal show because it will be the charity event in aid of Médecins Sans Frontières. Don't you love my French accent? Or Doctors Without Borders. We've got an awesome lineup. It starts on the Saturday, 4 p.m. British summertime. We've got Lordy from outside YouTube. We've got James Randi, Matt Dillahunty, Lawrence Krauss, PC Myers, AC Grayling, Barbara Forrest, Eugenie Scott. I'm sure there's probably someone I've missed out there. From people that you would know on YouTube, we have from the sublime to the ridiculous. We have Non-Stamp Collector and Coctopus Prime. We have Aaron Ra is going to be on. True Puka, D. Landon Cole, Stolf Badger, Grappling Ignorance. Shit, I should have printed this out. I know that I'm going to miss people out. Concordance will be back on that show. Thunderfoot, Healthy Addict.
Lacey Green.
Lacey Green, Thinking Atheist, the rational religious antagonist, all sorts. If you're not familiar with it, check out the website. In fact, Tony, if I could invite you, please, to put the link to the website above the comments section. It's if you just do a Google search for DPR Jones MSF, you should get a WordPress document. All the information you need to know is in there. So, as I say, in 2 weeks' time, we will have a kind of Magic Sandwich show, but it's because of the way in starting and finishing, it's going to be a little bit earlier than normal. We're going to have Aaron Ra and Matt Dillahunty taking calls very much as we are now. So I will tell you what Skype address you need to send contact information to during the course of the show next week. Don't bother sending it to the Magic Sandwich Show, because that is not the Skype address that we will be using. So you'll have to wait until the show to hear that. So I hope that you will come along and watch that. I think it's going to be an enormous amount of fun, very, very interesting. And one final thing in relation to that, we are looking for items for the eBay auction, which normally brings us in something between 20-25% of the money that we raise. We're not getting as many items in this year as we have on previous years. So if you've got anything that you would like to donate, then, and it doesn't matter what it is, just send a message to, there's an email address on all the promotional videos I've done. And that's something I will do at the end of the show. I'll show you what one of the things that I'll be donating on the eBay auction, and that is the Peter Popoff collection of trinkets. I'll show you that in a few minutes' time. I'm sorry.
So you're going to sell off the stuff we could get for free from the same guy?
It's the only way that we're going to get money out of Peter Popoff for charity. I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry. We have a new caller. Rob Terry, welcome to the show.
Hey, yo, what's up?
Oh, Lordy. It's a Geordie. I thought we'd missed Oliver. How are you doing, Oliver?
Yo, what? No, I'm Chain Gang member 2007.
You really need
I'm
to
sorry,
take like a class to do the accents better.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you're going to come and troll, then please at least make it entertaining. We don't mind entertaining trolls. What we get pissed off about is boring trolls, and at the moment you're a boring troll. So get with it or you're kicked.
I think that the new character you're working on, the kind of Ollie G character, has potential, but you got to really get the voice down and have more material ready.
Okay, well, fuck it then. I won't do this as a character.
Were you? I'm sorry. You're the flat earther, aren't you? All right, and I still miss. Yeah. All right.
Well, how I was going to pull this off, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But on a serious note, though, despite your appalling trolling abilities, underneath it all, you're not actually that stupid. You're not as daft as you look. I just wondered whether you had anything serious that you would like to contribute to the conversation in regard to anything that we've discussed so far.
Well, thanks. I'm not that stupid, so I'm just a little stupid, I take it.
I said you're not as daft as you look.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pay
Okay,
attention.
well, about ridiculing religious beliefs, I feel that they pretty much send up themselves. You might remember when I was trolling before, I said telepathic spiritual feeling, you have to get this to affirm God. That's the words you wouldn't normally hear from a real theist, but that is effectively what they're promoting when they say you can feel the presence of Jesus and such.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree, and I'm sorry, and I don't mean this in a patronising way, but I'm aware of the fact that Puppy Turtle is relatively young and maybe not particularly well experienced or versed in having discussions of this nature. But I'm terribly sorry. When you ask him questions, the sort of responses that I was hearing were exactly the same as you hear from other people, like Together for Peace, They never answer the question. And again, if anyone doubts this, go back and watch his entire appearance on the Magic Sandwich Show when he was co-hosted for the entire duration, and see how many questions he actually answers, or answers in a coherent way, in a way that you can actually understand. Now, when you start questioning it, as I do, and this isn't intellectual snobbery, it isn't, simplicity, it isn't not looking at the nuances of his beliefs. This is just a simple exercise in trying to understand what the hell he is saying, and he cannot explain it. So how can I respect? We can't even get into the nuances, but how can I respect someone that can't explain or justify what they believe in?
I think nuances are just a common trick that a lot of religionists use. A lot of people a lot of Muslims use it as well. And what they do is, you say something that you find objectionable about their religion, and they'll say, your understanding of my religion is incorrect. That's not my position. But then they'll never actually tell you what their position is, so that you can't attack what their actual position is.
It's like Almighty said recently, they'll all say, you're taking me out of context. Okay, what context should we take it in?
Yeah, I always pursue. That's what I see a lot of people kind of dropping the ball on, is without being too vicious, or you got to, any time they ever make the claim that there's a context, I can guarantee you that they're bluffing, and they don't have any kind of a follow-up, not even a bad one. They will just say, well, you're taking that out of context, and you just always follow up, and you can be very nice about it. You just say, okay, well, please, let's follow up the context. Again, I had one conversation with Jack, and he said, well, it really irritates me when these atheists are always saying, yeah, more people should read the Bible because we think it'll deconvert people, and I'm certainly prone to saying that. And I said, well, I don't understand, why would it irritate you for more people to read the Bible, for whatever reason? No matter which direction you're coming from, it would behoove everyone to have a better base of knowledge. And he said, well, you can't just read it without the context, the original history, and the language, and so forth. And in principle, I can agree with what he's saying, that it's better to have those things. It's better to have a comprehensive understanding than a limited understanding. But a limited understanding is better than nothing.
But I mean, this was one of the first topics that was actually discussed when he was on the show, and it was Thunderfoot and he having a discourse over the Book of Revelation, and Thunder quoted a passage from it and said, "What does that mean?" And Jack's response was, well, you can't just ask that question. You've got to look at it in its historical context, and as a bit of, I can't remember exactly what terminology he used to describe it. But he never got around to answering the question and explaining what it did mean. He just said, no, was it antiquated literature or something? I can't remember. But yeah, you're quite right. He was never pressed on that point of, well, okay, what context can we take it in, and what does it mean? He never answered, and I'm terribly sorry if this sounds disrespectful. Tough. None of these people can ever answer this question, because every single interpretation of the Bible is subjective. I'm minded to invite every single theist that I ever come across from now on, who wants to have any discourse with me, to actually tell me, give me a definition of God, and I guarantee that every single one will be different, because it's subjective. God lives in their imagination. And if, again, I'm sorry if that sounds disrespectful, or sorry, what did intellectually dishonest? How is it intellectually dishonest to answer a question? Am I being simplistic by not opening up my mind so much that my brain falls out and I listen to his crap without questioning it? Is that simplistic? Sorry, Jack, doesn't work with me.
Well, I don't understand. He's people often in that situation are so reticent to admit that they don't know, even though they've just played up how difficult certain portions of the Bible or other scriptures are supposed to be difficult to understand. I mean, I think it would be from the point of the individual and arguing their faith, not necessarily the validity of the book itself. I can understand a Christian saying, well, much of what Revelation is very bizarre, to the point that I'm inclined to think it's all not like a riddle type prophecy like you'd expect from Nostradamus, and it will only become clear, shortly before the events happen, and then people will be able to the words will suddenly make sense, whereas they didn't before, and just admit that they don't have the answer to this timeless riddle.